It's clear that Lost Ark in the West is going through a crisis, but after playing the game for 2 years, for me it is no surprise. The truth is that in some way I've always felt sorry that a game with such a good gameplay suffers from monetization strategies that are so invasive and progress barriers that are so frustrating and unreasonable. I saw it from the start. The design of this game, sooner or later, would make its community self-destruct, and in this video I will explain why. Some time ago, I found a video about a presentation titled Let's Go Whaling. It's a very interesting video about the multiple sophisticated monetization strategies that are used in mobile games to harass you with every chance they get, if that means that you'll spend money on the game. Now, if the first thing that you have to say for your presentation is that we can leave the morality of these strategies out of the talk, we can discuss them later, what kind of precedents are you setting up to make these propositions? In general, I would advise anybody to watch this video, but in summary, the general strategies go as follows. Create some kind of competition between players. Make a model that can transform the game into a habit. Use strategies of scarcity and FOMO to break the ice or the wallet, so the players invest money. Make the player grow an emotional attachment to their investment of time or money to the game, and contrast this attachment with a very strong aversion to punishment. The 4 points that I present here can be executed in many different ways, but I think I've never seen a game that converges all these strategies into one type of content. The progression curve of Lost Ark will always keep you wanting for more and feeling that you have less. Let's try to break this down a bit. Competition is something quite common in online games. Even in games with a strong focus on cooperation, there will be those who want to compete or prove something of themselves. When I just started in Lost Ark, I didn't think that the MVP screen could have such an impact on the game. But today I feel that it is the root of a great evil. For some, being on that screen is the definition of fun in the game, and Smilegate knows that there's people willing to do anything in order to gain some kind of advantage that will ensure their place as the best. Add to this that many players like to brag, be it for the rare quality of their collectibles or for the accumulated power of their characters. And just like that, we have one of the first persuasion methods of Lost Ark's monetization. Now, let's look at the upkeep that we have to do on our accounts to have a chance to be competitive. If we analyze the list of tasks that we have to do in order to generate resources and then affording the character progression, it may seem that it is not a lot, but nobody really questions the fact that this list has to be multiplied at least by 6. I still remember the first time I got to Northburn. With all the hype that I had for the game and all the fun that I was having, it seemed to me that doing 2 Chaos Dungeons a day was not enough. I even remember being one of those people who did Chaos Dungeons without resonance, so that I could farm in a very mediocre way some more mats to do more honing. Without realizing, I was falling directly into Lost Ark's genjutsu. After noticing that the resources that I could generate with only one character was not going to be enough to keep pushing the progression, the most logical decision was to have many different characters that I could farm on. At that moment in time, it was easy to make that choice. I would even dare to say that up until Argos, having 6 characters was not really a lot of work. But by then, just how many Chaos Dungeons, Guardians, Raids had we already done? The vision of a clear horizon, in this case leveling up your character through honing, contrasted by the illusion of FOMO after seeing that you never have enough to get to the point where you're satisfied, created the perfect conditions to generate quite the unhealthy habit in players. Once we had the first impression of how you play this game, nobody stopped to ever think about the relationship that we have with it. Even if you are a new player, you can feel this pressure from the very early stages and easily fall into the same trap. And I mean, if the game doesn't get you, the community will do it for Smilegate. Just think for a second, how would you teach someone to play Lost Ark?
Look, you create a character and farm stuff to level it up. But you won't have enough stuff, so you create another character to level up your first character. Now, to farm on your second character, you also need to level it up. So you create a third character that helps your second character help your first character, And you go on and on until you have 6 characters and you level them all up.
Just what the fuck did you say to me? In what world does this sound like a fun experience from the outside? Now, this environment, that I have no better name for it than an economy of scarcity, does not only happen with farming mats. What really shows how foul this game is gold and fions. To many people, fions are no longer a problem if you have played for a long time. But gold is never enough. And it reinforces the habit of playing relentlessly, more than any other resource. You do everything with gold, from honing to buying accessories, getting engravings, cutting elixirs, transcendence, crafting relic armor, you name it. All the systems in the game need gold, and the worst part is that gold has a quantifiable value in real money. And I get that everybody knows that Lost Ark is a pay-to-win game at this point. I know, it's fine. The point is that this is the last piece that completes the manipulative model of the game. Let's go back on our list and put it into context. You have an MVP system that is trying to seduce players' egos in a PvE game, which makes them prone to invest in any advantage that they can get if that means that they'll be able to beat the competition. The game presents you with a rather linear progression with a lot of rewards during Tier 1 and Tier 2, but in Tier 3, they start to decrease, so you quickly understand that you need more characters to farm. Also add the hyper-express events that are commonplace now, which creates a sense of accelerated progression in new players, only for them to crush into the wall of scarcity later on. You realize that gold is extremely important to progress in the game and to optimize your characters across multiple systems. Some of them which are massively time-gated, taking over a year to complete, like the card system for example. So you subconsciously start to give in to the pressure of wanting more. And here's where you have to make a decision. Do I invest time or money into this game? The question might seem simple, but it hides a very important detail. The answer you choose does not matter. One of the interesting discoveries of behavioral psychology is that there are certain elements that can create an emotional attachment to a hobby. That's right, the investment of time, effort, or money. One of the examples given in the presentation about monetization that I showed you earlier is the strategy used by IKEA. The furniture that they sell you is not the best quality, but you build it, and thus it has more value to you. It's the same thing in Lost Ark. It has been studied that those who have invested money on a game subconsciously change their perception of the relationship that they have with said game. Now that I have put money on it, continuing to play the game is my way of justifying my financial decision. On the other hand, if you don't want or straight up can't pay, the investment of time or effort have the same effect. But I've been playing for so long, how am I going to stop now that I have Light of Salvation 30? No, I need to keep playing to shove gold up my ass. In one way or another, we are all in Lost Ark's genjutsu. It affects everyone. If I play too much, I feel like it's never enough. If I play too little, I feel like I'm missing out on resources. And wait, that is not all! The cherry on top is the obsession that this game has with RNG. It is nothing new that RNG is present in everything you do, from honing to accessories to stones to cards, etc. And to be fair, RNG is present in many games, but only these motherfuckers have the audacity to create a multivariate RNG system. People are talking a lot about a certain post in Inven, about the many shortcomings of the game. It has a lot to talk about, but I don't think I'll cover it all right now. Might comment on it on a different video. Nonetheless, this post has something that I love, and that I always wanted to visualize, but I never could because I suck at math. Statistical analysis of the systems in the game. The very author of this post regards the progression system of Lost Ark as mediocre. And it is designed this way on purpose because, and I quote, The laws of randomness and regression to the mean can only be guaranteed probabilistically when the number of trials is extremely large. In other words, systems like the ones in Lost Ark can only truly be viable when you can make hundreds of thousands of attempts. And we already know that is not possible. And to illustrate that the design behind having to do so many attempts is truly some perverse shit, we have this charming example, and I quote, "If you do 100% once, you will definitely succeed. But if you do a 50% twice, there is a 25% chance that both will succeed, a 50% chance that only one will succeed, and a 25% chance that both will fail." This is only an example with honing, but it helps to illustrate the volatility that these systems can have, like stones, elixirs, transcendence, but for fuck's sake, not even accessories are out of this. You have 5 variables on the same item: quality, stat 1, stat 2, engraving 1, and engraving 2. It feels like an insult when you get 20 drops with 100 quality and they all have endurance and necromancy. What a pile of shit, man. And to top it all off, the author of the post estimated that the best effects of elixirs, that is, master, critical, and whatever it is that supports use, have a chance of a 0.5% of appearing as an option on the menu. Yes, it is 3 sages and you do have 5 chances, so that makes the chance of finding these effects a 7.2%. That means that your luck just starts when the effect appears on the menu, but you still have to go through hundreds of variables and volatile probabilities to guarantee that the elixir will be useful. I mean, come on, how can you make a system for which the community was forced to program some artificial intelligence to make it possible to even use it properly? Well, you'll understand that to me this is quite frustrating, particularly in the case of epic elixirs, because it is clear that they are just a way to show you the potential behind elixirs, but Smilegate refuses to give you something that good without any catch. Every time you cut an elixir, it spits on your face. The system is made so that yet again, you fall prey to the FOMO and you feel the need to level up to 1620. Otherwise, you will keep getting shat on. There's many examples in the same post showing how the probabilities of these systems are clearly against the player. But since they are overcomplicated systems that Smilegate cannot even explain properly, nobody complains because they are too busy being confused. Seeing the numbers and understanding the volatile and multivariable design of the game's progression, tell me if this is not some dog shit. How the heck were we not supposed to get frustrated with a game that is so hostile with its players, and at the same time, so manipulative so that you keep playing it? The worst part is, behind all of this, there is truly an incredible game. I've said it many times, I've played MMOs for a long time. The gameplay of Lost Ark has no equal. The combat system is unmatched, both on PvP and on PvE, and all of the classes are extremely dynamic and interesting. Except for supports, they kinda suck, to be honest. The point is that here lies a great game, and it is falling apart because the developers, before wanting a game, want a money printing machine. But well, we have talked about monetization and the manipulative model of Lost Ark. How is all of this supposedly related to the rampant gatekeeping that there is in the game right now? That is because the economy of scarcity, the manipulative design that leads to FOMO and emotional attachment, are contrasted by rates that are extremely punishing with mistakes, and their volatile progression systems constantly remind you that your efforts can ultimately fail, manifesting a strong aversion to punishment almost immediately. This is how you create one of the most selfish and apathetic communities that I've ever seen. And with this, I must insist, the raids in Lost Ark are filled with mechanics that if one person fails, everyone fails. It is excessively punishing. You know what else is punishing? It has been quite the synchronicity that, as I worked on this video, more content was created related to it. One of my favorite content creators, Matt Season Show, made a video not so long ago titled "Why MMORPGs Are So Antisocial Now." It's a brilliant video about the way in which MMORPGs are designed nowadays, and one of his most interesting observations, in my opinion, was about the concept known in sociology as the weak tie interdependence model. In summary, in order for a social group to prosper, it is important that its individuals can form superficial ties with all types of people. This diversity of your network can allow you to expand what is possible to achieve from the point of view of an individual, since you will have a much wider range of people to go to if you need information or resources that you cannot have by yourself. This model is the pillar of the overwhelming success that World of Warcraft had on its beginnings. In order to complete the content successfully, interacting with other players was a requirement. And I'm not saying that Lost Ark does not have this model to some extent. It's just that it is trying to choke it as much as possible, but making sure that it does not die. In the end, many people play with other people simply because it is a requirement to access the content that allows you to farm gold. But considering what I said before, the difficulty of the game, the amount of content that you have to do every week, how frustrating the systems are, how punishing the rates are, all the adversities that are against the player will only lead to one thing in the end. The harder you punish the players, the harder the players will punish each other. I've said it so many times. The reason why gatekeeping exists in the game is because everybody wants to minimize the inconveniences and frustrations of doing the content for longer than what it is considered to be optimal. And when this happens, players stop seeing each other as an advantage and they start seeing each other as obstacles. From this stem all the stupid, arbitrary parameters that have been seen on the game to gatekeep. Roster, item level, gems, titles, light of salvation, non-meta engravings, etc. And the worst part is that this is not exclusive to Lost Ark. If you look at the way that people play Warcraft today, with the obsession with Rider.io and parsing, this behavior can manifest in even the most casual games. And that is because the manifestation of these tendencies is completely cultural. Don't believe me? Pay attention to the following story and tell me if at some point you start to identify yourself with what happens. You started playing the game with a group of friends, or maybe you found a guild during the earlier stages of the game and started tier 3 content with them. All is good, everybody plays with everybody, and you're having a great time. The first raids are released. Bolton and Vicas are exciting challenges, but you can beat them eventually. However, you start to notice something strange. You realize that there's a group of people that start playing more among themselves. You notice that when you show up with a character that is not optimized, their willingness to take you to their raids is not quite the same. Slowly but steadily, some of your secondary characters are left out of the raids. And even when you're trying to be understanding, now you cannot build these characters because they are not farming the mats that they need. I don't want to say that somewhere around Clown or Belshazzar, but it could be. This group of people that started playing more among themselves has now become quite the hermetic unit. You, and possibly some other guildies, are left aside. And even when you try to play together, you cannot ignore how slow and frustrating the progress is, given how unprepared your characters are. Eventually, given that you're unable to keep up with the rest of the players, you get frustrated and try looking for another group of people to play with. Or simply, quit the game. It is obvious that this story didn't happen to everybody word for word, but I could bet that 70% of the community of the game has experienced some version of this. Nobody is safe from being seen as a burden in this game, since the game itself pushes you to optimize every aspect of its content. And that also means that eventually you can crack under the pressure and start seeing other players as a burden. The worst part is that with things like the power passes and the hyper express events, more than being systems that can help new people get into the game, they simply become resources that promote the tendency to optimize the roster even further, and they have done nothing more than destroying the perception of the minimal requirements that you need to complete the content of the game. When was the last time that you saw a lobby for Kakul Satan with people in 1500 eye level? Or normal Brel with people below the 1540s? Tell me, when was the last time? And that is not even the minimal item level. To enter Clown, you need 1475, and for Vilshasa Gate 3, you need 1500. You have become complacent. You are doing the content exceeding by far how much you really need to complete it. That is why I can't believe people that say that they love Clown and Vilshasa. Nowadays, you can destroy these raids and skip all the mechanics. But if the raid is so fun, why don't you take people to the raid that are just on the item level, even if they have a good roster level? That's because you just want to get your fucking gold and go fuck yourself. You don't want to spend a single second more than what you want on the raid. The threat of the idea that the very players are going to restrict your progress is another immense pressure that pushes people that maybe didn't even want to level up their characters to such exaggerated points. Just how many times have we seen people stressing out trying to get the reclear titles during the first week that some content is released, just to have some sort of pass against the gatekeeping? From this perspective, it is even more outrageous that there is an ecosystem for buzzers. I mean, the gold that you've worked so hard to get, you will have to use it simply to get the chance to progress, having to pay not to Smilegate, but to another player to be able to do the content? I am of the opinion that buzzes are not a unidimensional problem. They are a complex, multi-layered problem. But at the end of the day, it is the very community that is creating a feedback loop to it.
And why do I have to teach people how to play the game? Can't they just watch a video?
For fuck's sake! Nobody's telling you to become some sort of coach for this game. 70% of the raids are so nerfed that they can be cleared by at most 3 competent people. The raids that can't, it's literally a matter of people doing the mechanics once and they can go fuck themselves. They don't even have to do any damage. The attitude of some people in this game is, at best, dishonest. Everybody wants to be the MVP, but nobody wants to feel that they have to carry other people. What makes you think that someone who has less item level than you is not doing everything in their power to carry their weight? Since when have things that have so little to do with skill or knowledge of the game become such a guaranteed method to avoid margins of error? And God forbid someone caused the wipe once or 2 times. Because you'll immediately have people writing shit on the chat and spamming the stop break button. Consider the following. If you are of the people that hears all of this and starts to feel attacked, let me tell you that I am not here to put myself in some sort of pedestal to lecture the community of Lost Ark. In fact, the effort that I'm making with this video is probably in your best interests. Let me tell you, if you have gatekept people, if you have been unreasonable with the way you perceive other players, it is no surprise. You are simply acting the way that the design of the game is setting you up to. And nobody is stopping for a second to think that they are being prey to such a dishonest manipulation. The gatekeeping, the buzzes, the horrible new player experience, the bots, the obsession with parsing. Without even realizing, the players imitate the same philosophy behind Lost Ark's design. Create an unnecessarily competitive environment with a strong aversion to punishment and a heightened sense of FOMO. The very players punish each other, becoming another instrument of the disruptive design of the game. That is the gatekeeping by design in Lost Ark. Now, even when I'm trying to identify all these things, could it be that this is going to change something in Lost Ark's ecosystem? No? Do you really think a nobody is going to get Smilegate's attention? But the truth is, the reason why I did this video is because today it is becoming more and more common to see these types of strategies and manipulative designs in the world of video games. After all, I don't consider myself to be a content creator exclusively for Lost Ark, and I'd like to branch out to other topics that have more to do with interesting design or memorable games. I would really like that you were able to reflect on everything I said, that you can see the relationship that you have with the games that you dedicate your time to with a different perspective. Because I think it is fair that if we are going to invest so much energy into something, we should at least have a clear vision of the experience that is offering us. Having a clear vision of the transaction that is involved in dedicating to any game should be the lowest standard to decide if we want to participate or not. And I think that game developers today are doing the impossible to avoid you from having that clarity. So beyond the criticisms I may have for the game, I wanted to invite gamers from all game genres. To what point do you prioritize your fun? And to what point are you simply playing in automatic pilot? Are you really aware of the satisfaction that you're getting from this hobby? I really think these things should be discussed more. Because if you are not able to ask yourself these questions, someone else will find a way to own your answer instead. And when that happens, you will have no right to choose. As always, my name is Sun, and until next time.